Tony Moreau, CEO of American Eagle Gold, AE on the TSX Venture. It's been a little bit since we spoke. Honestly, I think it was in January in Vancouver. You announced some news this morning. You have 100% of the NAK Copper-Gold Porphyry Project in BC. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about gold, all-time highs, copper near $5 a pound, and American Eagle is a copper gold exploration company. So it's like the perfect tailwinds. How does the copper and gold price affect you guys, Tony? And what was the sentiment that you got from investors at BMO and, at PDAC?
Copper and gold price doesn't really affect us as much, I think, as some of the majors. Obviously, we're not producing, but, what I always tell people is, this thing, it's like hitting a moving target. Think about where gold and copper are going to be in, 5 to 10 years when this thing becomes a mine. I think that's the most important thing to think about. I do not think it'll be under the price of $5 a pound copper or $3,000 an ounce gold. So, people are looking for, near wins. And I think a lot of the attention's obviously in the majors. You see Eagle rising a lot. And then I think a lot of that attention's kind of going down to like the mid tiers, like, the Alamoses and the IAMGOLDs of the world. But sooner rather than later, I think a lot of the attention is going to be kind of going down to the juniors. There's a lot of torque. There's a lot of upside. If these big companies want to grow, I always say I think the gold mining companies are going to buy the mid tiers, but the big copper companies are going to buy the juniors because there really are no mid tier copper companies with huge scale that the majors want to buy. So I think we're in a good position there for the American Eagle Gold.
Yeah, so it's been a little quiet during the off season here the last couple of months. I know you've been doing marketing, you've been attending conferences. Can you tell us what else the company has been doing during the off season?
Well, we've been doing a lot. I wouldn't say it's stuff that is going to turn the needle from a marketing perspective, from an investment perspective, but from a technical perspective for our plans for 2025, it's completely game changing. So we have a certain budget and we spent a lot of, from when we stopped drilling in October till now, we've had boots on the ground, analyzing our core, trying to figure out, what we have, where we're going to drill. We're about to start some geophysics. In less than 30 days, we're doing some aeromag at NAK. And right now we just finished up a, 5-day program with Dr. Alan Wilson, who, by the way, runs the Economic Society of Geology worldwide. He was at site with South32 and Teck and our team, and just looking at all the core and just trying to figure out, where the best places we are going to put the, kind of meters in the ground. So, from a planning perspective, it's good. Obviously, our stock is about 50% below where we did that investment with South32. Obviously, it's low. From my perspective, I don't love it because it's a bit of an ego thing, but from a business perspective, it doesn't affect us because we got enough cash for 2 or 3 years. And you look at any of the other companies in BC that are going up. They're a big shiny toy for investors, but all these guys have got to do raises. We don't have to do a raise. And I think the closer we get to the spring, closer we get to drilling, I think people are going to realize if you want a catalyst, you want a company that has a lot of money with 2 big partners, there's really only a couple companies to invest in. One of them is American Eagle Gold. And, a lot of the feedback from BMO, from PDAC was, don't understand why your stock is down. And I think it creates a lot of contagion when you see a stock go down. But they like the fact that we have 2 partners and we got a big treasury. So, everything's pretty positive.
Yeah, when the stock was down to 41, 42 cents in the last week, I did a calculation of the enterprise value, and I was like 30 million, 32 million CAD. Like, wow, that's pretty low.
I always say this. Why do you need your stock up? You need it to raise, which we don't have to do. You need it to sell, which we're not in a position to do yet. So, stocks go up, stocks go down, but our stock always seems to rebound closer we get to drilling, closer we get to catalyst. So I'm not too worried about this blip. And that raise we did at 87.5 cents, that's a quote unquote world-class raise. Not many people have been able to do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, that was a great financing. Neil, let's turn to Neil. So let's talk about this. You guys made a tweet recently showing the 2025 drill program, just sort of a rough outline. And I couldn't help but notice this massive chargeability anomaly on the east side of the Babine porphyry stock. It extends into the south, into the, the embayment zone, so to speak. Tell us about that chargeability anomaly, because it's really screaming.
Yeah, so the chargeability anomaly is associated with a phyllic alteration halo, at least from what we've been able to observe in outcrop and reports from historical core from the few holes that are out in that area. And that's one of the most prominent features at NAK is this big chargeability ring around the Babine porphyry stock as we have it currently defined. So that screaming chargeability anomaly is because of densely disseminated pyrite, which is fairly common as a porphyry geophysical and alteration signature. That said, it doesn't necessarily mean there isn't grade bleeding out into that very strong chargeability anomaly. But it because it's so strong, it actually kind of obscures the more subtle chargeability signal throughout our main zone. So, yeah, we'll get some holes out in and around that area, but that's not the main target, just based on our current understanding of the system.
Okay, so the main targets continue to be the north, as far as I understand it, and that's more of a moderate, it's a moderate to high chargeability zone on this map that you posted. And then, the IP embayment zone to the southeast has not seen much drilling. Is that still a priority for 2025?
Yeah, there's a lot of other positive geophysical indicators down there. There's a coincident resistivity high as well, which is really compelling. And there's surface sampling down in that area, that has shown we have mineralized intrusive down there, right? And those are two strong parts of the mineralization story at NAK. So yeah, that, specifically the embayment area, that's going to see some focus this year. We just got down into the far north extent of it, with the bottom of 36. And again, there was a lot of smoke there. So, yeah, no, that's going to see some drilling, as well as the north and the eastern side. So yeah, the plan is to do quite a bit more of an aggressive expansion program this year. And the funding that we have really allows us to do that and be systematic about it at the same time. So yeah, it's a really ideal situation to be in from a pure exploration standpoint.
I was looking at your presentation, slide 14. It says in March you'll have a new model for NAK. So is that about to come out? And what can you tell us about how your interpretation of this atypical porphyry system has evolved in recent months?
So yeah, the team has been working really hard on digesting, interpreting, reinterpreting, reanalyzing all of the data we collected during the field season. So looking at the rocks in combination with the 4-acid multi-element geochemistry, and going in with a more detailed look for the specific alteration as well. So it's still a work in progress. The progress has been very good. So we have a really good handle on the lithology now, and we know there's a pretty strong lithologic control on certain styles of mineralization at NAK and certain styles of alteration. And so now we're working through the alteration and mineralization information we have with the much more confident geologic model in hand. And yeah, so we're progressing to having something that is testable and then also helps us guide our team in the future, for what we see in subsequent drilling. NAK is quite complicated. There's a lot going on geologically. There's a lot going on, mineralization-wise, alteration-wise. So it's really good to have a better understanding and be able to understand all these different controls in NAK. So yeah, the progress is coming along nicely. There's a bit of a tease of the geological model at the roundup talk. And since then we've got, nice testable polygons. And, yeah, it's definitely a great framework to build off of going forwards.
Okay. And then, back to Tony, just curious, what have your conversations with South32, what can you tell us about the conversations you've had with South32 in the off season?
They're very positive. When we came up with those results, obviously, like they like results, but I think like everyone else, they were probably expecting an Arc'teryx jacket without a Helly Hansen jacket, which is still a nice jacket, by the way. I'm a skier. But they're in there for the long term. They realize there's blips in the junior mining business, different than the major mining business that they're in. But they're in there for the 2 to 3 year program. And I can tell you one thing, they have just as many people on the NAK program, technically wise, than our own team has. So we probably have in the off season about 5 people full time working on NAK, and they probably have, 5 to 10 people full time working on NAK. And, I think Teck's investment, they're, they kind of invested at a lower valuation. They're a bit laissez-faire of just watching as an investment. But, South32 is in there to find a mine, and they have all hands on deck. So the price going down has probably motivated them more than ever. But they like what they see. We've obviously try and treat everyone like a family. So we invited Teck and South32 down to site, and they really enjoyed working with Alan Wilson. They uncovered a lot of stuff from what I understand. Alan just ended yesterday, but they see a lot more stuff that they're excited about. And I think we have a pretty good plan in place. And for those who are listening, we're going to do a live webinar probably in the beginning of May with all of our drill callers that we're going to have, at least the first 10, location, and why we're doing it. But we have a pretty good idea of where we want to drill, and I think the party's going to be in the north.
Okay, the party's going to be in the north. So just a question. I think you said 30,000, meters for this year's drill program. If you start in let's say mid to late May, does that mean you're going to be drilling all the way through the end of the year with 3 rigs, or can you go faster?
Look, I think we're leaving. I think the one thing you can say is we're going to drill 30,000 meters. I think the number of rigs and how long we're going to do it is going to be dependent on what we're hitting and our plans. So we'll probably go to 3 rigs, have a 3rd rig coming on, but we also have the optionality to drill through on the year till March. But, I think hand to the heart, we'll do 30,000 meters, and when and how we do that, it's kind of up to how our plan and our drilling comes along. But one thing I gotta tell people, we went from, 2 cents to $1.10, drilling 30,000 meters. We have more information, more money, more partners, and be drilling more meters than we have drilled combined. So, if there's some catalysts that are going to come, they're going to be as big as ever in 2025.
Okay, going back to Neil, just looking again at the tweet you guys made with the IP chargeability and the different zones. So I don't see some of the holes on this map. So what was the furthest north hole that was drilled last year?
The furthest north collar was hole 3537. And that was from the same collar location as hole 5 from 2022. But the furthest extent that we got to the north at depth was in 2438.
2438.
That was collared a little bit to the south though.
Okay, so is the plan, as you know it today, to step much further to the north, above what you've tested so far? And what can you tell us about what you know about that area that's further to the north, along the donut?
Well, so we really know very little. There's drilling that is a long trend, shallow historical drilling that's on trend due north, but there's very little drilling that actually starts to wrap around the porphyry stock. So we know the mineralized intrusive we hit. It is very likely a steeply dipping feature that might be a bit of a wedge shape. It looks like it gets quite thin to the south and possibly expands to the north. But we don't have a ton of geological control on that. So getting some more holes, a few holes that are a little bit less of a step out to get a better handle on the orientation of the mineralized diking in that area. And then once we have that understanding, then we can decide, what the orientation is of the collars that we decide to walk around to the north there. There's some local zones of very dense bornite veining, like massive bornite veining we see up there. And we also see extensive intervals of mineralized intrusive, that are distinct from the porphyry stock. So there's a lot going on up there. It's a fairly complicated zone, and that's good. That's good for seeing varied mineralization styles. So, that, like Tony said, that's going to be a big focus of expanding this. But yeah, I'm also really excited about the south and about stepping out to the east. We see a lot of geophysical similarities, a lot of geological similarities, and there's evidence from mineralized outcrop and strong soil anomalies down in that area. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a multi-front approach on the directions we step out and explore this year.
Is the interpretation as you have it now that copper dike that you've intersected in several holes extends further north?
Yeah, I mean, we see the copper dike, the furthest south drill holes we drill, and we see it in the north drill holes. And we've got a couple different really distinct magmatic affinities identified from the geochemistry for the various intrusives we've been terming copper dike variably over the years. So we've got one that's a sparse porphyritic but distinctly monzonitic composition phase, which is quite distinct looking. And then we've got another phase of diking that's texturally similar, maybe a little less, maybe a little more crowded, but densely mineralized. And that plots in a really different geochemical space. And then the diking we've hit in the north plots in a different geochemical space still. And as we try to understand the orientations here, they're all kind of cutting at different orientations. So it shows there's a pretty robust multi-source confluence of events going on here in NAK. And it's a matter of us trying to understand, like, are these all sourced from the same different evolution of the same causative intrusion? Are these distinct events? What's the timing difference between them? So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered on that front. We've got a really good understanding of some of the coarser orientations of everything. But yeah, still trying to piece together the story here to properly understand this. A great problem to have.
Multi-source. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that is a good problem to have. It's complicated. Okay, great. Let's go back to Tony. And if anybody from the audience has a question, we'll probably go for like another 10 minutes. Tony, one of the conversations we had at the end of 2024, you gave a few stock picks. I just want to check in with you on your stock picks and how your stock picks are doing.
Well, obviously, IAMGOLD been doing pretty well. I think we called it about $3 last March this time. That stock's doing well. I'm telling you right now, their board is going to sell. They'll probably sell in the next 12 to 18 months. It's going to be higher than it is right now, forward-looking statements. And look, they had some activist investors that are now involved in the company, and look, they're going to sell. So what price it is, I don't know, but I'm guessing Agnico Eagle, Kinross, or Lundin Gold are probably going to be the ones that buy it. And I think Lundin Gold would be the big person that comes in because I think they want to diversify away from Ecuador. They have a really high PE, and Côté is a great asset. And Lundin Gold is not afraid of Burkina Faso. So those guys can't sell Burkina Faso, ESTA can, because what they would get for it, let's say $1 billion, what they get in cash flow a year from that asset. So I think that was one thing that would maybe scare away Agnico Eagle. Obviously, I like American Eagle Gold. The closer we get to drilling, the higher stock's going to go. We're right now, about cash, we're probably selling at about 25 cents. And we got two great partners with us. I think the other two companies that I love are obviously companies I'm involved with, but QC Copper, which is now XXIX. I think they're the new Foran, trading extremely low values. They got the highest grade resource in Canada, close to 1%, 100 million tons. I kind of look at them as like a combination of Foran and Osisko in the sense that they don't have a big investor like Premwatsa that Foran has. And they're similar to Osisko in the fact that they're next to a town, an old underground mine that they're looking at to do open pit. And then I think the other one that not a lot of people look at that should is ORCAP, which also has a huge amount of shares of American Eagle Gold. But, there's a company called Gold Candle that's in the area that's valued at $360 million. And ORCAP has McGarry, which has 36 million tons at a gram per ton in the old tailings, which is 1.3 million ounces. And they also have everything that unlocks Gold Candle. So if you look at Gold Candle, let's call it $360 million. I think probably ORCAP's worth about 30% of that. So that company's trading around $10 million, and I think it's probably a $100 million valuation, forward-looking statements, but that has a ton of upside. Obviously, a lot of companies are looking at that right now. So to round it up, IAMGOLD, ORCAP, XXIX, and American Eagle Gold are my 4 picks.
Yeah, the IAMGOLD, your comments on IAMGOLD are actually very interesting. The, Lundin Gold, which is LUG on the TSX, that is one I actually hadn't thought of previously, but it actually makes a lot of sense now that you mention it. And they are a cash cow right now. I mean, it would be a big acquisition for them. It'd obviously be a stock deal or mostly stock deal if that happens. But
it wouldn't be a big acquisition. Like look at their PE versus IAMGOLD's. Like you got to start buying paper. You got to diversify away from Ecuador. IAMGOLD's got some great assets, great company, and I think Lundin Gold's operation expertise to really help out IAMGOLD as well. And obviously, I think a lot of people at IAMGOLD want to get out and get that cash payments. I think it worked for everyone.
Yeah,
That's kind of
it would make a lot of sense. I'm just saying it's a 10 billion market cap buying a 5 billion market cap. So that's a big deal. But yeah, it would then, make the company a major. It would make the combined entity a gold major then, it would be in the leagues with the big boys then. So yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. You didn't mention one copper stock that you talked about previously, Tony.
Which one's that?
Big.V.
What's that?
Big.V. You picked that as one of your top picks for this year.
Say the stock again? I can't even understand what you're saying.
It's Hercules Metals. The symbol is big.
Hercules. Yeah.
You picked that as one of your top picks last year.
What was the price then when I picked it?
It was a great pick. You're way up on it. You picked it at like 60 cents.
I always look at leadership in the companies. I love Chris Paul. He's an extremely smart geologist. I've talked to him many times. I know him personally. I also like the plan they're going to have. They're going to do grid style drilling. They have Barrick as partners. Barrick are no dummies, and I think they're going to hit big. I don't think those drill holes were anomalies. So I think they're going to get their drilling costs lower. They're bringing in a new drill, and I really like Hercules. Yeah. I'm staying by that pick too. I just forgot about it because I got in the whole rush of talking about, my own book.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Yeah. Some good picks, some good food for thought. I mean, I'll give you and Neil the final word. I don't think we have any questions from the audience. Nate, you have anything
Nate has a question. Nate has a question. I know it.
All right. Nate, step on up, Nate. All right. I'm sending him a speaker invite. Here we go. Here's Nate Smith. Go for it, Nate. You can. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. Do you hear now?
Go ahead. Yep.
Nice. I mean, I could run through a couple here. So, sorry, here. Let me just bring them up. You touched on the technical review progress. Deforestation work. Has there been some clarity? Has there been any work scopes kicked off? Do you have any updates you can provide on some of the access development?
Yeah, so I'll jump on that one. So deforestation, we're working on it. It's a bit of a bureaucratic quagmire right now. It involves, 2 different forestry companies. It involves the First Nations. Canfor was supposed to deforest that this year. Obviously, they left BC, and there's another company called Cap4 that's supposed to buy them out, but it needs to be permitted. So we're still we're working with all three companies, two companies in the First Nations to get that done. I think the best case scenario for us is, we get deforested in the winter, which allows us to extend our drill program, and we get a forest road kind of going through the whole property that allows us to access it how we want. And we obviously have some, deforestation permits as well at American Eagle. But the really only difference, this won't affect our plan. So wherever we want to drill, wherever we want to do big step outs, we're going to drill those anyways. It just might cost us a little bit more money on heli support drilling, but we're saving a lot of money on our drilling and our assays this year. And, every extra hole is about $100,000. So I always told the market we're going to drill 30,000 meters at $12 million, and we have, $3 million of runway to add on top of our budget. So it won't affect our plan. It just might cost us a little bit more. And we're working actively with, this forestry companies, which is, I thought mining was complicated. Forestry is, 3 times as complicated.
Okay. And then, you guys gave some great feedback from your PDAC attendance. Were you in attendance at the BMO this year? And was there any feedback you can provide from that?
So I was at BMO. We haven't done business with BMO just because all of our kind of investments with Teck and South32 have been kind of homegrown, and we haven't used a bank for it. So we don't get invited to those big bank conferences. But I was luckily invited by a big investor of ours called Antonio Ortizar, who's an amazing guy, really kind, and he invited me as his +1. And I had 3 big meetings. I South32, and I met with Teck. And I was a little sheepish when I met with Teck, I gotta be honest, because we did that meeting, we did that investment at South32. And when I met, JP, Jonathan Price, now on first name basis, the first thing he said to me, which is really surprising, he held out his hand and he said, "Congratulations on that deal." He goes, "I worked with Graham for years at HP. It's all about cost capital, and we're happy that South32 is involved." And then I met with South32, and I said, "This is football." We talked to the company, and he said, "Don't worry, your mining gets ready to go. This is our number 1 pick in all of Canada, believe it." So one of those meetings would have been, kind of worth their trip. So we have supported those 2 big companies, and they're run by individuals that are great company cultures. So I was happy about the trip. So those are really the only 2 really big meetings I had.
Oh, okay, great. That's some great feedback. And then, one for Neil here. Can you just touch on the geophysics suites that you guys plan on running here, I believe on, the end of April?
Sorry, sounds like you're cutting out. I'm not sure if my end, the connection is bad here, but no, I'll jump in on the geophysics. So Tony mentioned aeromag. We're running a bit more of an advanced aeromag survey. It's a gradiometric magnetic survey, so it actually will measure the total magnetic intensity, but then also the orientation of the magnetic domains, and allows us to filter that data a little bit better to see just structures a bit more discreetly, especially if there's a difference in the timing of the emplacement of the various magnetic units, which we think there is. There's everything at NAK seems to be happening pretty close in time to each other, but that's error bar of 1,000,000 years, right? So lots of time for some subtleties to be picked out by a more advanced magnetic survey. So we're really hoping that also helps us guide our understanding of the structure at NAK, the structures that the intrusives are in place along. If there's any faulting we haven't yet drilled into, it'll be really handy to be able to see. We're really looking forward to getting that data, hopefully by the end of April. And then we'll be running a few pilot CSAMT lines as well, just to see, because resistivity seems to be quite important in NAK. The CSAMT will allow us to see that a lot deeper and see if there's any more, roots to the system that we might be able to target below our current confidence in the IP resistivity. So yeah, a few things on the go. But yeah, the most immediately useful is going to be that gradient mag.
All right, Nate.
Yeah, that's great, guys. Thanks for answering some of those questions. I'm breaking up something evil, so I'll let it go here.
If I could throw something out there, Rob, really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We got the title today for NAK, which we always knew we were going to get. I don't talk about this guy a lot. I think a lot of the times I talk about our geo team and my late uncle who kind of forced us to buy NAK. But, I want to give a shout out to Bernie Kreft. He's been really great to work with. He has a nose for exploration. He's got a great track record. He's been really easy to deal with us. So I encourage anyone that's looking for a new project to contact Bernie. But this guy had this project for years and years before American Eagle had it, and different companies had it. They left it. They had it. They left it, and he always kept on to it. And he worked with my uncle to help find our original targets that set their stock from 2 cents to 3 cents in 3 days. So I just want to thank him because he's a big part of our team. We really enjoyed working with him. So I just want to give him a really quick plug.
Very cool. Yeah. Bernie, he's a good account to follow on X. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Nate. This was a great conversation. I will post it up on my YouTube channel at Goldfinger Capital in the next couple of days. And have a great day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.